bem-vindos, bem-vindos. Muito bom ter vocês aí. Legal. Muito bom ter vocês aí. Obrigado pela presença. Esse é o Nova Talk. Você que está assistindo pela televisão, muito bom poder ter a sua companhia aqui prestigiando a gente. A gente espera que esse programa possa impactar a sua vida de uma maneira muito positiva, assim como a gente está esperando que isso aconteça na vida de cada um de vocês que chegou aqui para assistir ao vivo e a cores junto conosco aqui. Gente, nosso convidado de hoje é um líder muito carismático, camarada aqui cheio de força, de vitalidade, de energia, que tem levado a palavra de Deus para muitas pessoas ao redor do planeta. E eu já cansei de assistir esse cara pelo YouTube, nunca tinha visto ele ao vivo, e é um privilégio para nós receber esse pastor, que é um pastor da Hillsong, que é o pastor Chris Mendez. Welcome.
Thank you. Muito obrigado.
Pastor Chris, very welcome to
Vamos
Brazil.
falar inglês?
Yeah.
Não falamos português.
It's up to you.
Não falamos inglês.
Okay.
Muito obrigado.
It's a privilege for us to receive you here.
Yes.
Welcome to Nova Igreja. Welcome to Brazil. Welcome to Rio.
Thank you.
We are praying for your ministry to flourish here in South America.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to be here, and Rio's not a bad place to come to.
Yeah, well, sometimes it is, but
Hey?
usually it's not. Usually it's fine.
I was driving here tonight from the airport, and we went past a couple of beaches, went past Copacabana, then went past another beach, and I said, I wish we had this in Buenos Aires.
Oh, yeah.
And but we just don't.
But don't worry, it's not so far. You can come here anytime
that's
that
a
you
good
want.
thing. 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours and we're here, which is good. When I used to live in Australia, it was 22 hours.
22 hours,
Now
yeah.
2 hours
I
is
went
simple.
to Australia just once.
Yeah.
I practiced triathlon,
Yeah.
and I went there for a competition, the world competition.
You practice triathlon?
Yeah.
I'm convicted. I go to the gym
Okay.
3 times a
3
year.
times a year.
Yeah.
That's why you look so good.
Yeah.
But I went there with the Brazilian team, and
Wow.
it was 32 hours because we went to Dubai.
Oh, no.
And then to somewhere else, I don't remember where, and then eventually you went to Australia. It was a long trip.
Yeah, it's a long place to go
It's a
to.
beautiful country.
It's a beautiful
wonderful country. I went to Gold Coast. What a beautiful place.
You didn't go to Sydney?
No, we went straight
Next
to Gold
time
Coast.
you go, you must go to Sydney. One of the best cities on the planet.
Yeah.
After Buenos Aires and Rio.
Okay. So, are you Australian or Argentinian?
I was born in Sydney,
All right.
born in Australia, but my family's from Argentina. So I have 2 brothers that were both born in Argentina.
Okay.
But mum and dad moved in 1974 from Buenos Aires to Sydney.
Okay.
And I was born in 77. And, but yeah, I look very Australian. Blonde hair, blue eyes, you know.
It's impossible not to see that you're Australian.
Yeah, it's impossible. I look Australian until I open my mouth.
Yeah. No, but your accent is very Australian.
Yes.
So-
It is the purest form of speaking English.
Oh, yeah, not what the British say.
No. But the Australian is the English spoken in heaven.
I believe so. I've
Yeah.
never been there, but I believe in you. So let me ask you, let's begin with the beginning. How did you get born again?
Oh, wow. I came to faith many years ago. I was actually in the toilet of a nightclub, if you want me to get down to specifics.
Yeah, all right.
And I was in the toilet of a nightclub having my 3rd drug overdose.
Wow.
And a few months earlier, a friend of mine came and spoke to me about a man that she met and how this man helped her with her drug addiction. And that if he could help her with her addiction, he could help me. And I said, well, who is this man? She said to me, his name is Jesus. And I kept living my way for about 3 months. And I found myself in the bathroom of this nightclub thinking, I was 21 years old, thinking that I was going to die because I'd had previous drug overdoses, but this one was very different. And I remembered the words of my friend, and I cried out to this man called Jesus that I didn't know. And I
You were just by yourself.
Yep, by myself in the toilet, throwing up, thinking that was it. And I cried out to this man that I didn't know. And I basically said, Jesus, what you did for Mariela, that was my friend's name, if you could do it for me. And when I was in that nightclub in the bathroom, I just heard a voice. And I heard a voice say to me, get up and go home. And at that moment, I thought, either I'm going crazy or these drugs are really good. Because I'm hearing voices now.
Yeah.
But I heard the voice a second time, get up and go home. And when I leant on what I call the white throne, the toilet, and I stood to my feet, that feeling of overdose completely left my body.
Wow.
And I went home. My mum had become a Christian 6 weeks earlier. And I asked my mum, are you going to church tonight? And she's like, yes. And she thought that question was a miracle. And I said, can I come with you? And her eyes welled up with tears. And she said yes. And then she ran out of the kitchen, just in case I changed my mind. I went to church with her that night. At the end of the preaching, I don't remember what the sermon was about, but the pastor said, does anyone here want to give their life to Jesus? And I didn't put my hand up. I ran to the front. And that for me was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, but it was not Hillsong.
No, it was a small Spanish-speaking church in Sydney.
You know, we have not very, but somewhat similar stories. Because I was on drugs also.
Yeah, wow.
And I got born again because of my wife. She's right there. And she started to talk about Jesus to me.
Yeah.
And deep in my heart, I was receiving the message. But outwardly, I was saying, no, this story of Jesus and church is not for me.
Yeah.
You know, but I want the girl.
Yeah.
So
So you flirted to convert.
Yeah. So she started inviting me to go to church, and I was to the service, but you know, just watching and let me see what this guy will say there in the front.
Yes.
And it was crazy. Eventually, I got born again in a retreat.
Yeah, wow.
A friend of mine invited me to go to a retreat with him. And in the beginning, I refused to go. He said, listen, going to a church with my girlfriend, it's one thing. Going to a retreat, no, please. But he said, no, please come. Eventually, I said, okay, I'll go with you. And there at that retreat, during the first 2 days, I was thinking about running away, going back home.
Yeah.
But on the third day, always on the third day.
Always on the third day. Good things happen on the third day.
The guy who was going to give a Bible study, he said, listen, I was going to give a Bible study, but the Lord told me not to give the Bible study, just to praise and worship, because he wants to have a conversation with somebody here.
Huh.
I didn't have any idea that I was the one.
Wow.
And he started to sing with just a guitar.
Yep.
And in the middle of the worship, I felt somebody sitting by my side and hugging me. And I looked, there was no one there.
Yeah, wow.
And I said, now...
you
now
thought it was your girlfriend.
Yeah. No, she was not there.
You were like, oh, Gloria Deus.
No, she was not there. She was not there. Her father forbid her to go. So she was not there. And I said, I think that I'm having a flashback. The drugs are coming back from my stomach or somewhere here. Yeah. Because there's nobody here.
Yeah.
And he spoke to me.
Yeah.
The same way that he spoke to you.
Yeah, wow.
He spoke to me. Listen.
Wow.
Don't say anything. I understand everything. Everything is forgiven, and I'm restoring everything in your life.
Ah, beautiful.
And I saw my life from above, and I saw that everyone that I was accusing, they were victims of the devil as much as me.
Wow.
And I started forgiving everyone. And when I got home, my mom was watching TV, and I entered. I couldn't remember one day that we had not a fight at home. It was a mess at home. And when I entered home, smiling, she was watching TV, she looked at me, and I went there and hugged her and kissed her. When I
let her go,
she was looking at me, staring at me with big eyes. And I read in her eyes.
Yeah.
I thought he was crazy. Now I know that he is crazy. Definitely. He went mad.
Yes.
And my life changed.
Praise God.
I never used drugs again. It was a total change.
Yeah,
Very
wow.
similar.
Very similar. Praise
what
God.
God did in your life.
Thank God he doesn't look for perfect people.
Yeah, it's true.
He just goes after available people.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what I love about the grace of God.
Yeah.
We don't have to have it all together, but he's always seeking to find hearts that he can encounter.
Yeah. And how did you go to Hillsong?
Well, I went to Bible college. There's a long story there with the church where I got saved in. It no longer exists, things that happen. But I went to Bible college, and during my first year of Bible college at Hillsong, things happened in the church that I came to faith in. And it was during that time where I was left without a church. And with my wife, we just felt, okay, this is the place we're going to plant ourselves in. And that was 16 years ago. And then after that, 3 years later, I came on staff as an intern pastor on a 1-year contract. And 13 years later, I'm still on that 1-year contract. Yeah. So it's the never-ending year.
Yeah. So did you when you went to Hillsong, you were feeling already in your heart that you're going to be a pastor? You felt a calling?
I knew that the change in my life was drastic and it was supernatural. And so I went to college just wanting to discover what God had for me. I wasn't too sure if it was going to be full-time ministry, being a pastor. I knew that if God saved me from my addiction, it wasn't to live a small life, but I wanted to discover what he had for me. And it was during about the first 7 or 8 months of that first year of college that I just sensed that, okay, my life is going to be about building the church. It's going to be about being in ministry, whatever that looks like. And I just decided that I would never work in the secular realm again. And I just believed God that he would guide our every step. And that's how we've lived our life ever since then.
Right. And what about South America? How did it start in your heart about South America?
How long is this show? Because we could be here all night. Now, look, to make a long story short, about 10 years ago, I traveled to South America. We went on tour with Hillsong United, one of our bands, and we did a tour of a few different countries. Something was birthed in me on that trip. 18 months later, we did another tour, but on that trip, Pastor Brian came with us. Brian Houston, our global senior pastor, my spiritual dad and mentor. And we were landing in Buenos Aires. It was the first place we were going into. And as we're landing, I'm sitting behind him on the plane, and he just turns around and says to me, Chris, how do you feel about landing in the place of your destiny? And when he said that, I just felt an explosion go off in my spirit on the inside of me. We got off the plane, we went to the hotel, and I ring my wife. And I'm like, Lucy, Pastor Brian said this to me. I don't know what that means, but something's happened on the inside of me, and I know the day will come we move to South America. And my wife is like, no! I love Australia. And I'm like, yeah, well, our plans are not God's plan.
Yeah.
And
but your wife is Australian.
My wife is Argentinian.
Okay.
But she had never been back to Argentina. And so it was amazing because by the time I got back to Australia after that tour, when I arrived home, she said to me, we're going to move to South America one day. And God had obviously dealt with her.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then over the last 10 years, I'd been traveling to South America 4, 5, sometimes up to 6 times a year, preaching in different places. Pastor Brian had asked us to represent Hillsong Church in the Latin world and to look after the Hillsong network, and things just started building. And him and I had often talked about one day we would do Hillsong Church in South America, but we were always waiting on the right time. Pastor Brian would always say to me, we look for 3 things in starting a new church: the right place, the right people, but we wait for the right time. And he would say to me, we have the right place, you guys are the right people, but I don't feel it's the time of the Lord yet. And in 2014, him and I traveled to South Africa together. And during that trip, we both talked and we both felt 2015 is the right time. And that's when we announced it to the church, the 8th of February 2015. And we moved 6-7 months later on the 10th of August 2015.
In South Africa.
That's what we talked about. Yeah, I know you have a history in South Africa.
Yeah.
He was going to preach at Rhema Church, which I know you went to the college. To Pastor Ray McCauley. And then we went to our color conference in our church in Cape Town.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you have started the church in Buenos Aires?
Yeah, we started in Buenos Aires on the 15th of November, 2015. And then we started in Sao Paulo on the 30th of October, 2016.
So you have been in some countries of South America preaching in some churches. Here in Brazil also?
Yeah, many times.
How come you didn't come to this church?
Because you never invited me.
Oh, no problem. So I'm doing this now before a big congregation, so you have no escape.
Yes.
And you have a small or big, I don't know, I'm not sure, but you have a crew working with you in São Paulo.
Yeah, we have an amazing team in Sao Paulo. We have many guys who were with us in Australia, and when they heard about the announcement, and they're Brazilian, they just felt that it was a God thing to move back to Brazil. So we've got a couple of guys who are part of our staff who spent anywhere from 3 up to 7 years in Sydney with us. And then we've just been building volunteers on the ground. Because we started Buenos Aires first, we had a year working behind the scenes at building team and connecting with people who wanted to be a part of what we were doing. During that time, I met with many pastors in the city. It was very important for me to connect with other churches in Sao Paulo. Because I always say, I didn't want to come in through the back door of the city. I wanted to come in through the front door. So we made a very big effort to connect with a lot of pastors. I did the same thing in Buenos Aires. And now we've been going in Sao Paulo for 5 months, and it's been going amazing.
Wonderful. And you have some guys of your team here with you. So, Rafa?
We've got Rafa, who's one of our pastors in Sao Paulo. Him and 2 other guys are on the ground. Because my wife and I are in between 2 cities all the time. So
you're going to Buenos Aires and São Paulo back and forth?
Yeah, so we alternate weekends. Ever since we started the church here in Brazil, if I'm in Buenos Aires, my wife is in Sao Paulo.
Okay.
If I'm in Sao Paulo, she's in Buenos Aires.
When do you meet?
We meet during the week. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And because when we meet, it's electric. And it's going amazing. You know, God has graced us in a way that, you know, it's amazing when you step out of the boat in faith and you have no idea what you're doing. Because the moment we rely on our own strength, I believe it's the moment we step into failure. But when we rely on His strength and His grace, it's amazing how you draw from a well that you never knew existed.
It's true.
And God's been amazing in that sense. And Rafa on the ground with the team is amazing. And then we've also got Lucas, who's part of our team, key team in Buenos Aires. And so I never travel alone.
So Lucas is Argentinian?
Lucas is Argentinian.
Okay.
Yes. And
nobody's perfect, don't worry.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But Lucas is married to an amazing girl called Ruthie, and she's the daughter of a legend in Argentina called Carlos Anacondia.
Yeah, I know him.
So he's Carlos Anacondia's son-in-law, who's a huge evangelist, and he's nothing but a blessing to our lives.
Good, wonderful. Rafa, senta aqui, fica aqui junto. Chega junto aqui.
Bem aqui, Rafa. Su equipe Flamengo.
Oh my God.
Misericórdia.
Go back.
Misericórdia, Deus.
Go back.
Tricolor.
Tricolor. Welcome.
Tricolor.
Of course. All good people are tricolor.
Abençoado.
Let me just make one question.
Yes, please.
To him. Rafa, como é que está sendo ser tão novo e já pastor da Hillsong em São Paulo. Como é que está sendo essa experiência lá?
Está sendo maravilhoso. Aquilo que Deus está fazendo lá é nada menos do que milagroso. A gente tem visto em poucos meses milhares de pessoas literalmente sendo salvas e só tem como explicar pela graça de Deus, né?
Legal. So, I think that people here in Rio, there are a lot of people waiting for Hillsong to start. Oh yeah, I'm serious. It's true.
Yeah. We just posted a photo on the way here, just saying it's great to be in Rio, whatever. And people were asking, Hillsong Rio. And I said, we just started Hillsong Sao Paulo. Let us sleep at night.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because people think it's easy.
Yeah, it's not.
That it's just a wave of a wand and voila.
Yeah.
And no one realizes the sacrifice. No one realizes the investment. No one realizes what goes on behind the scenes. That like Hillsong Church is just this church planting machine. And it's not like that, you know. We never say never. But who knows, you know, but definitely nothing in the plans right now.
Yeah, no, but there's a long story behind the scenes of Hillsong, the long time that they have been preparing people.
Yeah, look, you know, Rafa just said that what's happening in Sao Paulo is miraculous. We've just been going for a few months and there's many people, but Hillsong hasn't been going in Sao Paulo for 5 months. We've been on the ground for 5 months, but Hillsong has a 34-year history.
Yeah.
So what we've brought 34 years into 5 months. And that's the difference. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Like they say to me in Buenos Aires, you've just been going for a year. Let's see how long you will last. And it's like, whoa. Hillsong's been going for 34 years. And so we have the wealth of a long history.
Yeah.
Of lots of experience, of experience in the grace of God. And we are now outworking that on the ground locally. But 5 months in Sao Paulo, 12 months in Buenos Aires is backed up by 34 years of seeing the faithfulness of God. And that's what people don't see.
Yeah, it's true. So I know the story of Hillsong because I started getting in contact with this ministry in South Africa a long time ago, 94.
Yeah.
So I was listening to the CDs and starting to translate the songs to Portuguese and so on.
Yep.
So it's a long story. So they didn't start to plant churches like this. It was a long time of preparation.
A long time. And Pastor Brian was very strategic and he never set out with a vision to plant many churches. Something happened in him, I would say, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then after we started in South Africa 8 years ago, things started to shift a little bit. And so it's not as if this was part of the plan all those years ago. It's the way that God has guided us. And that's why, you know, it took a long time for things to happen quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realize. People think everything just happens like that, but it took a long time. I always say, often as well in our walk with God, God often takes a long time to do something immediately.
Yeah.
There was a man who was by a well for 38 years. He couldn't get into the water to be healed. 38 years, but Jesus showed up and he did something immediately. But it took 38 years for something immediate to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to focus on.
Yeah, but people told me that Pastor Brian told that you are responsible for the whole Latin America. so you are the bishop of Latin America now.
We definitely don't do titles. I'm just Chris. Yeah, look, and it's not. That doesn't mean that we're going to start churches everywhere.
I know, but anyway,
but it's about
I would
connecting.
like to know about your vision for South America.
Look, I have a dream. No. I just want to see the church in our continent be all that she can be. In a continent that's filled with religion, in a continent that's filled with tradition. My dream is to see your church be all that God has called it to be. My dream is to see Felipe's church become all that God has called it to be. And to connect with people of the same spirit, like-minded, have the same sort of faith, that want nothing to do with religion, but want to show a continent that Jesus is not a religious God, he's a relational God.
Yeah.
That he's not a God of rules and regulations, he's a God of grace.
Yeah.
That the price that he paid on the cross was more than enough for any Brazilian to come to God, for any Argentinian to come to God, for any Mexican, for any Uruguayan. And that's my dream. I dream of seeing a generation that rises up and shows the world that a life with Jesus is a life worth living.
Yeah.
And so whatever that looks like in the future, who knows? And so my focus is on doing church the way that God has called us to do it. Maybe it's a bit different to the way others do church. It doesn't mean it's better. It doesn't mean it's less. It only means it's different.
Yeah.
And hopefully through the way that we do things, we can impact a generation.
Yeah, I was talking to, you said about Felipe, I didn't know that he was here. But I was telling him that this is the kind of vision that I have also in my heart.
Which is kingdom.
Which is kingdom. My vision is to cooperate with some other churches, not to compete with them. Some churches, they have a vision of competition.
Well, that's the thing. You know, if this room was filled with pastors, I would say to every pastor in this room, look around. Those who are seated next to you are not your competition.
Yeah.
Because often we get into competition with other churches, and then what that leads us to compare ourselves. It leads us to criticize amongst ourselves. Other churches are not our competition. The competition is what the devil is doing to a generation who doesn't know Jesus.
Yeah. I was telling him that we have a conference that we are going through all the whole country. Telling about many things that God is doing here with workshops and so on. Telling about the songs, about the instruments, and about the sound, and about what we preach here, the word of grace. And we always emphasize to the people in the other churches that we are not there to show them how good we are. But just to show them that God is doing something here, and if they can take advantage of this, and they can select what they want, and use in their church, and God bless them. And we want to cooperate with them as long as possible, as far as possible. We want to cooperate. But not everyone embraces this vision, because they are suspicious, you know, what this guy is telling. Cooperation, I don't believe. But that's the reason why I have a good relation with him. Because I want to cooperate with his church. I'm not competing with him. And I want to cooperate with your church. I'm not competing with you.
Yeah, totally. Look, I think when people are closed to maybe learning, or I guess the word is gleaning from somebody else who's doing something in a different way, and God's blessing, and the hand of God is on their life, and you can't deny it. You can't deny it, because people are getting saved, the church is growing, things are moving forward. So you cannot deny when the hand of God is on something or someone.
It's true.
But I think when people are closed to that, I think it comes from a place of insecurity. It comes from a place where they don't have a spirit that is teachable. And so we can all lean and learn off one another. And so, you know, what I love about your spirit, and we only met today, but the fact that I'm younger than you, and you've got me on your show asking me questions when I should be the one asking you questions.
Oh, not at all.
but that says a lot of your spirit. And my desire is that there would be a whole lot more of that in the kingdom, because we can all learn from one another. What I love about Pastor Brian, and I've had the honor of serving under his leadership for 14, 15 years now. I've had the honor of traveling with him to different parts of the world, and I've seen him speak to a pastor who has 100 or 200 people in his church, when Pastor Brian has thousands, but Pastor Brian's asking questions because he knows we can learn off anyone at any time in their life. And we need to always cultivate a teachable spirit in our lives, because we can all learn from one another.
And keep humble, because nothing of this has nothing to do with me or you. It has to do with him.
Oh man, if it had anything to do with us, we would not be sitting here today.
For sure. And of course that things would run totally different from what's going on.
It would be a mess.
And I was telling Philip that this is the kind of a thing that is happening all over the world. Some people that are understanding this spirit now, some pastors, some churches, that they are understanding this. And I believe that this is the church of the 21st century.
21st century, yeah, without a doubt. We need to understand that it's not about our kingdom, it's about His kingdom.
Yeah.
We need to know that it's not about Igreja Nova or Nova Igreja or Hillsong São Paulo. It's about the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And I believe
that we're in this together, that we are better together.
For sure. And in the moment that some other people, when all the pastors and leaders, when they start to understand this, just like we are trying to understand each other here, the church will explode because it will not be more, I am envy because a member of my church went to his church and I'm crying here because a member of my church went to his church.
Yeah.
I don't care. If they are there, it's because God put them there. And some people of your church will eventually come to mine and some people of his, and people will just go free to go there, to go here, to come here, and to sense the same presence of the same God,
100%.
to hear the same word, the word of grace, the word of God.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's very, very important for us pastors to always remember that people are not ours, people are His.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And we have been given the privilege and the honor to shepherd His flock.
Yeah.
And you know, it's very important to have that spirit. We don't own people.
Yeah. And the church must be a place of freedom.
Exactly.
It's not a prison.
Exactly. And so...
But you know what I have been noticing during the years, when you tell people that the church is a place of freedom, it's not a prison, that's when they want to stay.
Yeah.
The more you try to keep them, the more they want to go.
100%. Look, rules and regulations does not produce holiness and does not produce faithfulness.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the grace of God and a place filled with the freedom of God that will produce holiness and faithfulness.
It's true.
I was just in Israel recently, and it was my first time in Israel. And I was amazed at the contrast between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. The Mecca of religion, and then one of the most secular places on the planet.
On the planet, yeah.
And you see the contrast. Now, I'm not going to get into a discussion because we might upset a few viewers. But all I know is that where there's rules and regulations and we try and hold people, all you produce in people often is rebellion.
Yeah.
But when you see, often we lead like this with a closed fist. But I believe kingdom leadership is leadership that leads with an open palm.
Of course, yeah.
Where we're not holding people, where we serve people and release people. And it's those sort of people who are always going to be committed to the vision. They're going to be faithful to the vision. They're going to be faithful to God. And they're going to live in a way that is Christ-like because they understand that the grace of God, although that it was giving freely to us, it cost Him everything.
Yeah, everything.
And when we understand that it cost Him everything, we're never going to make the grace of God something cheap. We're always going to value the price that He paid so that we could receive the grace of God freely.
It's true. Wonderful. Yeah, that's the vision. I believe that this is the vision for the 21st century.
I believe so as well.
The churches to start to get united and to understand that we'll never be a clone of each other.
Exactly.
We have the way that we are and you have yours. Maybe we are very similar in certain things, but we can understand each other. We can talk to each other, and we can work together.
Yeah, because often in the church, we focus on the point of disagreement instead of focusing on the things that unite us.
Yeah.
So we focus on things like we might have a different view of theology.
Yeah.
And because we have a different view of theology, many think, we can't sit at the same table. So hang on a second. I don't need to have the same theology as you to sit at the same table. I don't need to have the same way of doing things as you to sit at the same table. Let's focus on what's important. We believe in Jesus crucified and Him resurrected. Let's focus on what's important. Many things may divide us, but the blood of Jesus unites us. Let's focus on what brings us together, because if we can focus on what brings us together, we can unify the church and move forward and see the church all become that she's been called to become.
Good, wonderful. Rafa, Deixa eu te pedir para você voltar para o lugar, porque
esperando a hora.
você está aqui atrapalhando.
Muito obrigado, amigo.
Estava atrapalhando aqui por causa da feiura. Não vou dizer, você conclua aí. So, you have been a pastor to the Hispanic community in Australia also?
Yeah. My wife and I were the pastors to the Spanish-speaking service in Australia for 7 years. And then we also were campus pastors. We oversaw 13 different locations and all the pastors that led those locations. We've been young adult pastors. We've had many different roles within the life of our church in Australia.
And some of these people came with you?
A couple. Just a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And everyone is in Argentina, or some of them came to Brazil also?
Some are in Argentina, some like Huffer are in Brazil. So he served with us.
You met him in Australia?
In Australia, yeah.
Okay.
He was in Australia for 3 years. His son was born in Australia, and he would come and he was a part of our Spanish-speaking service. He would lead worship out there, and then we'd also translate all our material into Portuguese, because in one of our campuses we had many Brazilians, and I oversaw that as well, discipling of the Brazilian community. And guys like Rafa and our other pastor in Sao Paulo, Pedro, they would oversee that for us in Sydney.
Do you have many Brazilians in Australia?
There's many Brazilians in Australia. Yes. And right now, there's Brazilians, Colombians, and Peruvians who go on exchange programs to study. And so in our city campus in Sydney, we have hundreds and hundreds of Brazilians.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I didn't know that. I thought that there was a lot of Brazilians in America. It's for sure.
No, there's many Brazilians that go to travel all around Australia, particularly surfers.
Oh, yeah.
Because they love the surf.
Yeah. But when you go, are you going to Australia frequently to get in contact with Pastor Brian, or?
I don't need to go to Australia to get in touch with him. We talked often, but I would go back minimum 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. So I go for our Hillsong conference, and then I go for different meetings, and my wife is going soon. She's going to the women's conference in Sydney.
All right.
But yeah, I will go at least 3 times. My mum is in Australia, so I've got to go visit mum, or I'm in lots of trouble.
All right.
So.
But I have seen you preaching in LA, in the United States.
Yeah, I was just in LA just recently.
But you were the pastor there in LA?
No.
Because the church in LA doesn't have a long time.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. 2 years it's been going.
But you were not the pastor there?
No. Pastor Ben Houston is the lead pastor in LA.
Right.
And he's a very good friend of mine. And so, many of us, we would go around to our different churches globally and preach in our churches.
Right. So you have been there just helping him for a short time?
Yeah, I would just go spend the weekend,
right.
Speak to the team, speak on Sunday.
When are you going back to Argentina now?
I go back on Monday. So this Sunday I'll be preaching in our church in Sao Paulo.
All right.
And then Monday I go back to Buenos Aires.
So you are going to Argentina, Sao Paulo every week?
Every 7 to 10 days. Every 7 to 10 days. So it just depends. Depends what's on. But now we've got an apartment that we're renting in Sao Paulo, so we have a place to stay. And so now that we have our own place, we will be spending a lot more time in Sao Paulo as well.
Eventually, you'll have a team in Sao Paulo that will not need you to go and come back so frequently.
Oh, we've already got that.
Because it's very tiresome.
Yeah, it is very tiresome, but it's what we're called to do. If you're gonna give it all, why not give it all for God?
Yeah.
And I always say, He paid the best price to save me. I've got to pay my best price to serve Him.
Good.
And so whatever that takes, and it does get tiring, but why not spend your life making a difference for the kingdom?
Yeah. But eventually, when you have many churches all over the South America, you will have to travel a little bit less.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll wait and see if we ever get to that stage.
Yeah, it's true. That's good.
But I love Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
I love it with all my
Did you
heart.
have the opportunity to go around the city and to know some places there?
Yeah, as far as you can get with the traffic, yeah.
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 But they have wonderful restaurants there.
Ah, yeah, picanha. Oh, gloria a Deus. Picanha, frango assado. No.
But they have wonderful Italian food there.
Why go to Sao Paulo and eat Italian food?
Yeah.
When I go to Sao Paulo, I want to eat picanha.
And feijoada.
Feijoada, sim. Yes.
Have you tried it already?
I love farofa.
Farofa. Everyone that comes from abroad loves farofa.
I love farofa.
I had a teacher in Bible school,
Yeah.
Pastor Mark Hodgetts.
Yeah.
The first thing that he tasted in Brazil was farofa. Every time he sends me emails, Twitter, Facebook, some farofa, please. Send me some farofa.
Frango grillado, arroz farofa.
Oh my goodness.
Guaraná.
It's like concrete.
Gloria a Deus.
It's like concrete to your balls.
Yes.
It will make a mess
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, if you like
After
it.
you eat that, you've got to fast for 3 days.
So you are very welcome. Anytime that you are in Brazil, please let me know that we can
thank you.
arrange for you to come here to preach in our church.
If the dates work, we'll make it work.
Yeah, no, please. We need to make the arrangements
Well,
for
you
you
guys
to
have
come.
had some friends of mine here. You've had Josh Kimes from New York.
Yeah. We have
some
a
of our
very
team
good
from New York,
relationship
so
with
which is
the
very
guys
cool.
in New York. They are very, very friends of ours, and usually they come here at least once a year, and they are wonderful guys. We have made very good friends with them.
Yeah.
So
I can't say yes to you publicly because Felipe will be very upset with me.
Why? Do you know them?
The last time I preached at Felipe's church was about 2 years ago. He's never invited me back.
Oh my goodness! Oh, he denounced you, man.
No. These guys have an amazing church.
Yeah, it's true.
What these guys are doing in Niterói and other places are crazy.
Afterwards, you tell them. Yes, it's true. It's a wonderful
And it's
a wonderful
awesome
church.
it's awesome to see what God is doing in the church in Brazil. I believe with all my heart it's a new day.
Yeah, it's true.
Because there's a generation that's sick and tired of religion and tradition, and it's a new day. And I honestly believe in the next 5 to 10 years, a fresh revival is going to happen in Brazil.
For sure.
But it's going to happen through the local church, because the local church is the hope of the world.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that the local church is rising up in this country like never before. And churches like yours, churches like Felipe's, churches like ours, I believe are part of what God is wanting to do.
It's true. This what you're saying, it's so true because every week we receive messages from people all over the country asking us to open a church in the Northeast, in the North,
because they
South.
think it's just like that.
Yeah, they think it's just like that. So what we are doing now, we have been transmitting the service through the internet for a long time. And now we are planning to start a virtual church.
Yeah, very cool.
And we are going to have a team, a pastor with a team just dedicated to the internet.
Look, you've got to do it. You've got to check out a good friend of mine in Guatemala, Pastor Cash Luna, who has Casa de Dios TV. It's online.
Right.
And they literally have every weekend thousands and thousands and thousands of people who will tune in online. And it's a great way to do things.
Yeah, put me in contact with him.
Yeah, we'll
because
do.
here, when we broadcast the service, we have 500 people here inside, sometimes even more because they go to the overflow room and so on. But people watching from the internet, we have sometimes 10,000, 12,000 people.
Yeah, it's crazy. Internet is crazy.
So it's crazy. And
the opportunity you have to reach. Whenever I preach, I always know I'm speaking to more people outside of the room than inside of the room.
Inside, yeah, it's true.
Because these days with YouTube, with podcasts, with internet, with people's, taking the recording of the message, and it's just amazing the day and age we're living, the opportunity we have for the kingdom.
Yeah, and this is totally new for our generation to have the internet available.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, it wasn't true. It wasn't reality. And now we have this technology to helping us to spread the kingdom of God. So it's wonderful. Well, we are coming to the finish. So
let's go eat picanha.
Yeah, for sure. A gente está chegando no final da entrevista. Vocês gostaram de ter o pastor Chris aqui?
Did they understand?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Very cool.
Here in our church, we have almost all the people, they know English reasonably well.
Yeah, cool.
And they understand very well.
Very cool.
So
No,
every time that you come
it's an
here, you
honor.
can preach in English and there's no problem. If you want to preach in Spanish, no problem also.
No, voy a pregar en portugués.
In Portuguese, so it will be even better.
My goal is within 12 to 18 months to be able to preach in Portuguese. That's my goal.
All right.
So I've got these guys always teaching me how to say things, and because I speak Spanish fluently,
Right.
it comes a lot easier, you know.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
very
getting
similar.
there.
Very
I'm
similar.
getting there. Yeah.
It's funny because when somebody comes here and speaks Spanish, we Brazilians, we understand Spanish very clearly, very well. But they don't understand we speak in Portuguese.
Yeah.
I don't understand the reason why. But anyway, you can preach in any language, even in tongues.
In
no
tongues,
problem.
very
The
cool.
people will
Very
understand.
cool. Make sure someone hears to interpret.
Yeah. No. You know, I have a friend of mine. He never spoke in English.
Yeah, wow.
And he offered himself to translate a British pastor, a South African pastor in his church, there in Lagoinha.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I will not tell you who he is, but you know the man. Don't tell his name.
No.
And he offered to translate. And afterwards, he told me, I translated pastor, so on, so and so. And I said, man, you don't speak English. And he said, no, but the Spirit revealed to me. I said, no way, man. He was preaching something and you were preaching your own message to the people.
Yes.
So, if you preach here something that we don't understand, don't worry. We'll have a message anyway.
Sometimes when I preach in Sao Paulo, I preach in English and Rafa will translate. And whenever he says something I don't say, I'll go, oh, no. Eu não falei isso. Because I understand.
Yeah. So, Pastor Chris, welcome to Brazil.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you.
here. Anytime that you want, this church is open to you,
Thank you very
to
much.
your ministry. Any help that we can offer you, it's not much, but whatever we can do for you to help you, we are available any time of the
Thank
day,
you, I
any time of
appreciate
the
it.
week, any time of the year. You can count on us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the honor of being here.
It's a pleasure.
And I love your heart and your spirit. And thank you to the audience for being here.
All right, thank you.
This is the beginning of a very long relationship.
For sure, for sure.
Very cool.
I want to offer you a book. My assistant. Slow motion. Every time she comes here,
Please sign it.
Yeah. I ask her to come in slow motion,
Yeah.
making faces.
Yeah.
But she refuses.
Yeah. She's
So-
disobedient.
Yeah. So I'll put the. Of course, the book is in Portuguese,
It's okay.
but you are learning.
Yeah.
It will help
look,
you.
Look at this, okay? Sua nova identidade.
Wow, amazing.
Descobrindo que você é o que você pode e o que você tem em Cristo.
Oh, amazing, wonderful.
Eu falo muito bom.
So,
Ah,
oh, my goodness.
eu falo muito melhor que Felipe.
Oh, my goodness. I was struggling here to speak in English, and you know Portuguese, man.
No. Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thank you very
you.
much for coming.
Thank
it was a
you.
pleasure to have this interview. I'll have to invite you to come back to another round, another interview.
100%.
Yeah, okay. People said, yes, please. Tell him to come.
Deus te abençoe. Thank you.